sadly, no one focuses on how a recruiter's heart breaks.
Yeah,
Uh, I was in
right.
shock. I'm like, 50% people didn't join. I had planned for this, and the good thing is this not a lot of this is happening. So recruiters there can, grab on the chance and do less work and get more out of it.
Right, right.
Right. We do not sadly apply what works in personal life in our professional life.
Hello, everyone. Today we are here with another episode of Recruitment Unlocked. Today we are going to talk about post-offer engagement. This is one of the topics which will complement our previous episode where we discussed about offer shopping. We have Ipshita. Ipshita, just to introduce you guys, last year we met over a user research call. She was of great help in launching Rexee's first ATS. And she's one of the most passionate recruiters I have met. So yeah, hey Ipshita, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Raj. That's a really sweet introduction. Not
Definitely.
recruiters are not used to this, hearing such sweet introductions.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons that we started Rexy also, that it has been ignored for a long time. So definitely, thanks a lot, Ipshita, for taking the time. So yeah,
My pleasure.
let's set the context. Why do you think like once an organization hires a candidate, rolls out an offer, why do you think there is some amount of work still left for the organization to do, right? What is the benefit out of it?
The benefit is very simple, is what the whole effort of sourcing, of fighting for compensations and all of that big jargons that we hear about, salary benchmarking, all of that goes in vain if the candidate doesn't join, right? Your whole effort
Yeah.
is wasted, right? Uh, you do see, like you said, offer shopping is one thing that you mentioned that you've covered in your last podcast. So, there's a lot of focus on offer shopping. Is it good? Is it bad? Or whatever. But sadly, no one focuses on how a recruiter's heart breaks
Yeah,
or even sometimes, if it's a startup and you really are rooting for a particular person to join your team as a founder or a hiring manager,
right,
how their heart breaks if there's so much, in especially close-knit organizations, there's so much expectations one has.
right,
We can start off something new with this guy's experience and all of that, right?
right,
It is a heartbreak. It's almost like a breakup,
right, right,
right? And what's the point for me if there is no candidate engagement post that?
right.
There's no point right now, especially uh, especially during COVID times when there were so many offers.
Yeah,
It was, the supply of jobs side was way better than what it is
right,
right now. For some people, fortunately, it's great even now, right? And which is good. I mean, I'm all for that. I am personally all for choose what's the best for you, whatever you know yourself best, right? I'm nobody to preach, but from an organization standpoint, that I think if you do not engage with the candidate, one, there's no point of that whole effort goes into vain.
right,
Secondly, even if that person joins, for me, it's very clear what I had in my mind is that um, you feel alienated initially in the company. I also felt myself, in my first job or
right.
my internships, right? I felt very alienated. Uh, I thought I'm not good enough. I recently had a cousin stay with me. She was interning in Zomato, and she was there for 2 months, and for one whole month she kept on telling, "I don't think, Didi, I'm good enough. There's so much happening," and all of that. And so I think it's very nice to set, and it happens with everybody. Now that
Yeah.
you've been in the industry for like so many years, 4 5 years, you know it. Okay, this is
Yeah.
a phase that will pass, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but then when you see students, especially because I worked on campus a lot, you see students coming out of with a lot of expectations, and suddenly the life is completely different, right?
Right.
It could be someone must have heard something about their elder brother working in, say, a TCS or a Microsoft or a Wipro, right? And
Right.
suddenly they come to a company like Coordination or Tortoise, and they're like, "What is happening? Why is everyone? Why are people giving me? Why is there no 1 week of orientation of reading company material and just having chai and snacks? Why am I suddenly thrown into like deep water and deep sea?"
Right.
And suddenly they feel they're not good enough. And this has been throughout, this has been a feedback that I've gotten from candidates, especially interns,
Right.
right? So make them feel a bit more comfortable before they join in, so they're more confident.
Right.
So the learning curve starts much earlier.
Right.
That is another thing. And of course, as a recruiter, this is from the candidate's perspective. As a recruiter, uh, you also understand the numbers, right? So, for
Right.
example, you see if X person is not very interested or not very responsive, you pre-plan. You have a contingency plan, right?
Right.
Uh, uh, when it's like a sales, it's a number game, right?
Right.
So you have to do that, and yeah. So these are the major three reasons. One being, just summing it up, one being uh, the whole effort goes in vain if the candidate doesn't join. So to
Right.
prevent that. Second being making the candidate feel more fit in.
Right.
And the third being the recruiter being more prepared for, should know what's happening, post the offer.
Right.
Sometimes people just get blinded and then suddenly are in shock. That happened with me on my first year of campus, where I was in
Right.
shock. I'm like, 50% people didn't join. I had planned for this, and I had complete. And sometimes, like sometimes was a very positive person, and I said, "नहीं नहीं ये तो कर लेंगे," and then reality hits. So
Right.
yeah, so the three reasons majorly. Is there
Yeah.
anything you can think of?
Yeah, I think one is like for early stage startups, especially, the timelines are very sort of already stretched, right? And you have planned for some resources. It can be a tech hire, it can be a sales hire, it can be anyone, right?
Hmm.
So that is one thing that the hiring manager or the founder gets hit with the most, right? So roughly, like you can say that, say, time to close is 30 days, right?
Yeah,
And you are just set back by 30 days, and that's too as a best case scenario in case you're able to find 30 days more, a replacement in more 30 days, right?
right.
But yeah, makes sense. So yeah, what are some of the things that you do to engage them? Like, as you mentioned, you need to build sort of a relationship with the candidate, make sure that
Hmm.
they feel comfortable, make sure they can ask you anything about the company, or like what kind of benefits you offer and so on. So what are some of the things that you make sure that happen after you roll out an offer, basically?
Sure. So after I've rolled out an offer, and in different companies, different things have worked. Okay. Now I am specifically talking about, say, coordination. Okay, and
Hmm.
let's understand the demographic here, because that is very important, right?
Hmm.
I am dealing with freshers here,
Hmm.
engineers from the creme de la creme um, of institutes, right?
Right.
Um, so how I generally deal with them, these guys. So we had multiple things, right? So we, of course, had leadership calls, right? So
Hmm.
uh, directly talk to the CEO, right? With
Right.
all and I do think this is very necessary for even larger legacy MNC companies, right? Because after you join in, there's not much interaction with the founder, which is unlike a startup, right?
Right.
So we did leadership calls where the founders and the VPs had a call with everybody, right? We also, if anyone's coming to the city, right? So to Bangalore, where the office was, I used to go them. either come to office, visit office, and see how things are. That's, I think, the best thing to do. And also, take them out for lunch and
Right.
understand. So because the demographic was younger,
Right.
um, uh, I used to, and our also scale was smaller.
Right.
Uh, I used to create personal bonds with everybody.
Right.
Doesn't matter, joins, does not join. For me, it was very clear that um it doesn't the outcome of this doesn't matter,
Right.
right? I Because if that I used to keep that in mind, it would be difficult for the other person to open up to me about different
Right.
things, right? So
Right.
I used to also bring in conversations like, you know, uh, why don't you try uh, sitting for this exam? Or why don't you
Right.
try? Why aren't you sitting for like hiring? Dude, I heard there's a hiring thing. And it's very
Right.
difficult for a recruiter to tell that, like, you always taught that do not promote other companies and,
Companies. Yeah.
things like that. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why? I mean, the more I give that liberty, the more it sounds more less salesy and more
Right.
concerned, right?
It
Uh,
builds trust also for the candidate to sort of say things which are probably not supposed to be said to a
Correct.
recruiter in their minds.
Correct. Something I'm like, I don't understand why people don't, you know, talk about, uh, say that they're right, giving another interview to an HR. It's so stupid. And I used to directly tell the people where I used to,
Right.
I'm like, I feel it's really stupid.
Yeah.
Why people don't tell this to the other HR? Do they think like we can sabotage them? If we could do that, we could own the world, but we don't, right?
Right. Right.
So I'm like, what's this whole, I think I don't know if it's a Western mentality, but there's a whole Indian mentality that even parents say कि जब तक offer नहीं मिले तब बताना नहीं, नजर लग जाएगी. And for that, it was, I used to be very, very frank with people about that. Hey, if you tell me, it's become easier for me. This is
Right.
why this is my job. I'm doing this for my job. It's easier for me. And it's so nice and it's so rare that people do most of 99% of the time when you're being honest about the
Right.
intentions behind this,
Yeah.
they don't think it's malicious. They
Right.
don't think there is a malicious intent or agenda behind this. Coming back to what all we did, so leadership call, lunches, uh, because again in small scale it was easier for me to send very personalized gifting or whatever, like a personalized message or whatever. So someone's unwell, so you used to send get well soon, and someone, for that again I have to keep a checkpoint if that person's
You don't
unwell.
know if you don't talk, then you don't know if there
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So conversation is a no-brainer. That is
Yeah.
has to happen. You
Yeah.
you pick and choose monthly, once, twice a month, even like three conversations per person is good enough
Right.
for that, because even that is not happening, right?
Right. Right.
The good thing is this not a lot of this is happening, so recruiters there can grab on the chance and do less work and get more out of it.
Right. Right.
Right, because when it becomes common, then there's a competition. चलो उसने 5 बार उस बात करी, मैं 10 बार बात करूंगी. So right now कोई बात ही नहीं कर रहा, तो फिर उससे अच्छा 3 times is great.
Right.
uh,
Right.
so at least start from somewhere, right? I was just, when I was thinking today, I also called, sent, and I was thinking of that idea, and I suddenly pinged my manager, my ex-manager from coordination, as to why didn't we do this?
Hmm.
Was take a weekend trip with everybody.
Hmm.
Why not?
Yeah.
And you don't have to go. You arrange it. You take someone from the team or the tech team or whoever, whatever team they're joining in,
Yeah. Yeah.
functional,
Yeah.
or just leadership in general. Just take them out for a like a weekend getaway.
Right.
Let them come, and let this not be mandatory again.
Yeah.
And then travel brings people closer.
Yeah.
So I feel um, throughout this whole candidate engagement, there was one theme I was thinking of, that uh, we do not sadly apply what works in personal life in our professional life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
candidate engagement was just that.
Right.
I have spoken to people like I will speak to someone I've met on Tinder.
Right.
right? like
Yeah.
like those kind of conversations, right? So I just feel get that knowledge from your personal life,
Right.
um, and put it in. Like travel brings people together, right?
Yeah.
Musical concerts, give tickets, go to a concert together, right?
Right.
And this will also there is a mentality that if you're spending on somebody, there is that trust that gets built. That before
Right.
joining, they're spending. Like Cred does those. It's a very famous thing. They
Yeah.
send iPads or laptops before joining.
Right.
You know, and Kunal was once someone had asked him that, aren't you scared that, assets won't come back? He's like, if I out of 50 people, 20 people are, 20 people are joining without this,
Right.
and 30 people are joining with this initiative.
Right.
Uh, I have already saved cost there.
Yeah.
And that will be, and out of the 10 people, he's like, not once someone has, he's like, in my history, not once someone has run away with the laptop,
Yeah,
right?
usually that definitely doesn't happen, as well as a lot of times the companies have their like walls in place which doesn't let them like
Correct.
open up and other things. So
Correct.
I think
And generally people, and in the whole working class, people are generally uh, have the fear because things will sabotage their
yeah,
personal,
right,
growth,
yeah,
their professional growth. So
right,
no one wants to be in that hassle also. Like,
yeah.
so yeah, so I feel that's another. So just spend on people before they join to show that trust.
And do you see this being different for like experience levels? As you mentioned, like freshers, you do this as a activity, but then what I think is for freshers that offer shopping is very less, right? How do you see that as a trend across, say, probably functions or say experience levels? Where do you
Yeah.
think is more effort is required there?
So in experience level, see the conversation is a demographic agnostic thing, right?
Right,
That has to there. Everybody likes to be talked to.
right,
Okay. Everybody likes to be the kind of conversations changes, right?
yeah,
It's slightly more professional when you're slightly more experienced. It's not as very casual,
right,
right?
yeah,
It's slightly more professional. So there are more, there are lesser, um, hey, what did you have for dinner kind of a thing. And they're
right,
more like, this is happening in office. I thought I should let you know, right?
yeah, yeah.
Another point, in this whole, what all we used to do for engagement, one thing was making these guys feel a part of the organization before they are,
They're
okay?
doing, yeah,
How how did we did that? At any even small decision making used to happen, we used to, involve them in one of them, right?
right.
Maybe so once we were doing a poll of, so we were get shifting to a new office, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we asked the people who had not joined yet. We showed them the pictures, the videos. We did a live, this is how this office is, this is how option two is. Then we
Right,
sent a poll as to what do you want. And we actually, we decided via vote, and their
right,
vote was counted, right?
right. Yeah,
It was very visible that this is what, okay, you guys chose it,
actuals,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that feeling of ownership is great. So I think this will also work for a experienced person, that they like, experienced people like giving advice,
right,
right?
right.
So pick on that.
Yeah, yeah,
So use things like, they like leadership calls, they like, so a more non the formal bits you
right.
can do,
Understood.
engage with them on that, right? Of course, an informal lunch or whatever is great, right?
Right, yeah,
Meetups and all are great. Again, demographic agnostic.
yeah,
The content of conversations change. It's more
right,
formal in experience. That's what I feel. I've done when, say, in Tortoise, where we've engaged with experienced folks, and you
good.
also understand what a person likes or dislikes.
Yeah,
So you adapt to that,
right.
right?
Do you think that these candidates sometimes also feel that this is getting a bit too much and they just want to join the organization or not be part of these activities, or they also understand the intention behind this, that you want them to join the organization, that's why you are putting that extra effort. Do you think that is something that you face from the candidates as a pushback kind of thing?
So always create, we did not get it because we always created a balance of um, of candidates' involvement needed, or or we doing something for the candidate, like gifting,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah,
Right. So we used to always balance it out. Say alternate months we would have activities where they join in,
right,
and alternate months we would have uh, something that we did from our end, either send a material, like a material to see, this is
right,
what is happening, or like something that does not need their involvement, right?
right, right,
But just a checkpoint, right?
right.
Conversations again, once you speak to people, you will
Hmm.
understand how interested they are,
Right,
right?
yeah, yeah.
If they are now driving the conversation,
Then they are
unlike,
it.
then they are in it,
Yeah,
right? If you are driving the conversation, you take a step back,
yeah, yeah.
right? You take a step back and then just do the necessary. don't
Right,
don't push it,
right,
right?
right,
So again, it's all about gauging the pulse of that person. It's
right,
very individualistic.
right. And the recruiters need to be good at this as well, like throughout the interview process, because that's when they'll sort of uh, gauge that, okay, how much backup do they need for this particular candidate, right? How much or
Yeah,
do
yeah.
they even need it, right?
Yeah. So it depends, of course, it depends upon your historical data. Like we knew
Yeah,
our 50% is a general dropout thing, right?
right, yeah.
There is market data. Like when the Googles and Amazons started hiring like crazy,
Hmm.
knew that people are, you know, uh, there is the drop rate is going to go higher. Okay.
Right. And as you mentioned, right, this is highly qualitative kind of conversations, right? There's no
Hmm.
automation required here, or even sort of if you want to put in, it's not going to help you with the sort of benefits it gets when some recruiter is talking to this. So how do you do this at scale, right? For example, if a recruiter is handling 20 offers a month, for them to remember that, okay, these are the states of these candidates, is just not possible, right? How ATSs are helping sort of reduce some of the recruitment tactical work. Do you think ATSs should sort of formalize some of these things, or at some point in time figure out how to scale these engagements?
To be very honest, do not think there should be an automation to this,
Right.
because again, but this has been the case in the history of automation.
Yeah.
That you always think that इसमें नहीं लाना चाहिए automation, like performance, right? Performance
Right.
reviews. कि
Right.
नहीं नहीं this is a very heart to heart and very gut feel thing, and there
Right.
is automation come to it. So I am
Yeah.
not so right now I may not feel, but maybe
Right.
something that
Got it. Got it. I think you have covered most of the things that probably say you're still sort of explaining as a recruiter, right? But then do you think that's the only responsibility of the recruiter to make sure that the candidate joins? Because I feel that the hiring manager is the one who's going to get the most impacted out of this, apart from your, say, self-assessments getting ruined.
correct, correct. So there is a role to play for a hiring manager for sure. Like for example, any leadership talks or any, have conversations, or you can, do like these shadow sessions where you shadow your hiring manager for a day, right?
Right.
Or peer or like a team member, uh, or the founder. Everyone has a role, but I think it's better for a recruiter or someone outside your team
Got it.
to drive this, to
Hmm.
be the point of contact, right? If I'm hiring a recruiter, I would rather have someone else. Maybe say I'm hiring a talent acquisition person, so I would have someone from a performance team
Hmm.
to to drive this,
Yeah.
right? Because I just feel one, of course, it uh, cross functional collaboration also is great.
Right.
right? Uh, Two, I'm of course biased that recruiters have better people skills. So that's another reason. But again, just having someone outside the team that you're going to be working with,
Hmm.
because you can't have someone outside the company,
Right.
because they won't be able to give that much insight.
Right.
Um, right? So just having outside the team is gives you the perspective that information that the candidates are sharing with you is safer and it's more
Hmm.
confidential. So I
Hmm.
think driving this, I think recruiters should drive this. I personally believe this.
Hmm.
Of course, you cannot neglect the team that these guys are going to work with in this. So
Right.
you have to involve them in a lot of sessions. Say 70 to 80% of the sessions involve some, if not all, from the team that you're going to be working with or the hiring managers. But
Right.
some to drive, I think recruiters should drive this because this is when the whole recruitment cycle completes, right? That's
Right.
when you this is not onboarding
Yeah.
yet.
This is when the candidate joins. Is till then all the work is recruiter work, basically.
Correct, correct. So, and you have been also, scheduling interviews, and you have been the team, if not the single person that has been scheduling interviews and all of that. So,
Right.
you already have a head start.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's
You,
another.
you already know the candidate enough, and for you to sort of
Yeah,
continue that conversation is easier.
yeah, easier. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And
For the
what do you
candidate, it's easier.
for the candidate also is easier? Yeah, makes. I think coming to our last question, this is more from the candidate's perspective. So, do you think like this might be a very small or sort of uh, how do I put it? Uh, it might be a very small issue for a candidate to think about these things, but then do you think that these engagement activities are sort of giving signals to the hiring manager that probably the candidate is not a culture fit, or what we thought in the interview process didn't was not the right representation of the candidate? And do you see that offer revoking ever happen? I sort of know the answer, but then do you think a candidate should not think around these lines, or how do you think about this?
No, I don't think. Firstly, because in even how much ever you engage, it's difficult to judge uh, a culture unfit or whatever, unless some extremely morally wrong things or an extremities come into play,
Right,
right?
right.
Just a not so culture fit is not a problem, right?
Hmm.
It's good to know that someone, say X person, and no one is completely like the culture fit is, again, it's a very vague concept,
Right.
right? So I might think, say, Raj is a culture fit for tortoise, but someone else might not think the same,
The same, right?
right?
Yeah.
Right? There's the subjectivity. So again, so it's not a clear decision, right?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, right. And plus, if even if Raj is not a culture fit, there are so many, times that 90% of the times, once you come into the company, and as long as majority of people and the whole as long as majority of people are following a particular culture, you end up fitting in.
Molding their in their
Yes,
culture.
yes, you can, and it's good to know that okay, this guy needs, this person or this girl needs to uh, this is like this parameter slightly lesser, we'll work on this. And
Right.
there are great exercises and great activities where, for example, say ownership or leadership, and whenever we used to see that not being there in somebody,
Hmm.
and somebody always taking a back seat, you give a single project, you
Right.
take
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take care, you present, right? So
Yeah.
exercises like this later on helps, but it's good to
Right.
know previously.
Yeah.
It's good to gauge that previously, and people also evolve in like in a company, even an experienced person, right?
Right.
For them to fit in is tougher because as you grow your personality, there are certain things you're very rigid,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're less flexible, right? You have
Right.
more notions about this, right? There are different ways. I'm sure there are different ways to handle those things, but yeah, revoking of offer, I feel is not an option because you cannot judge
Yeah.
someone's culture fit in say 2 months, 3 months, or whatever, or just by meeting twice, thrice. That's a
Right.
more once you start working together is when you'll understand not a culture fit and then take actions for towards kind of it.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Ipshita, for today's episode. And yeah, let's keep in touch